I'd like to start by sharing a couple of quotes. During the day, I don't believe in ghosts. At night, I'm a little more open-minded. With all the ghost tales told, records kept, and books written about ghosts, there seems to be no order as to kinds and varieties of ghosts. No classification of ghosts has been given. No information of a science of ghosts is at hand, that if one sees a ghost, he might know what kind of a ghost it is. One may learn to know and be unafraid of ghosts, as of his shadows, without giving them too much attention or being unduly influenced by them. Or ghosts are far from the chill, remote beings that we think they are. They can be intensely passionate. It's because they lived so passionately in life that they hang around after death. Intense fear, love, hate, the traumas of war, the transcendence of mystical prayer, these passions are what make ghosts so interesting. Let us pray. Father, Mother God, we are so grateful to be living in a place and time with so much potential and so much support. We ask now that our guides and angels, our loved ones in spirit, gather round us closely, and we're grateful for their presence. We celebrate it by repeating the prayer that Jesus taught us. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not in temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen. Jesus had a way with words, and he didn't even know English. It's an amazing thing. So, again, thank you for bearing with me this morning. I'd like to start with a little refresher about what I talked about last time, and then today we'll move into this a little further. This is part 3 of 3 in a series of what our friends on the other side are doing while we're down here. The source for this information comes primarily from 2 books by Dr. Michael Newton, Journey of Souls and Destiny of Souls. Dr. Newton was a hypnotherapist who spent the majority of his career specializing in taking his clients through a review of that period that we experience between lives. His sessions spanned more than 40 years, and he called them Life Between Lives sessions. Each session with a client would last around 4 to 7 hours, which gave plenty of time for details. In the first part of this series, we just touched on what most of Dr. Newton's clients experienced as they made the transition across the veil. We talked about a tunnel of light with various layers, which were perhaps astral planes. We spoke of what these souls encountered once they traveled through the tunnel. No one arrives on the other side alone. Everyone is greeted by guides and loved ones who attend to whatever healing may be required on the soul level. We also talked about those souls who Dr. Newton called disturbed souls, or those who have been involved with evil acts. There are mentally ill people who feel driven by opposing forces of good and evil over which they believe they have no control. The destructive impulses of emotional disorders, if left untreated, inhibit soul development. Certain souls do undergo separation in the spirit world, and this happens at the time of their return to spirit with their guides. They do not travel along the same routes as other souls. Those who have been impeded by evil report that souls whose influence was too weak to turn aside a human impulse to harm others will go into seclusion upon re-entering the spirit world. Now think about that. I like that thought, so kind of sit with that a moment. Those who have been impeded by evil report those souls whose influence was too weak to turn aside a human impulse to harm others. So some of that is hardwired into these bodies. And these souls that we come in with need to be strong enough to override that, which kind of explains a few things, doesn't it? These souls don't appear to mix with other entities in the conventional manner for quite a while. But not never. During part 2 of this series I shared on July 21st, we talked about the orientation or holding area that souls enter right after crossing into spirit. It was said after those entities who meet us during our homecoming have dispersed, we're ready to be taken to a space of healing. This will be followed by another stop involving the soul's reorientation to a spiritual environment. In this place, we are often examined by our guide. People in hypnosis who discuss the type of counseling which goes on during orientation say their guides are gentle but probing. Think of a firm but concerned entity who knows all about your learning habits, your strong and weak points, and your fears, and who's always ready to work with you as long as you continue to try. When you don't, everything remains stationary in your development. Nothing can be hidden by students from their spiritual teachers. No subterfuge or deception exists in a telepathic world. Souls report their orientation often takes place in a room. The furnishings of these settings and the intensity of this first conference can vary after each life. Regardless of the specific energy treatment received by the soul at the gateway to the spirit world, most all returning souls will continue on to some sort of healing station before finally joining their groups. All but the most advanced souls crossing back into the spirit world are met by the benevolent spirits who make contact with their positive energy and escort needy souls to quiet recovery areas. Ah, bliss. There are certain displaced souls who have become so contaminated by their host bodies that they require special handling. In life, they became destructive to others and themselves. This spectrum of behavior would primarily include souls who have been associated with evil acts that caused harm to other people through deliberate malice. Remember that deliberate malice portion too. There are souls who slowly become more contaminated from a series of lifetimes, while others are totally overcome by one body alone. In either case, these souls are taken to places of isolation where their energy undergoes a more radical treatment plan than the typical returning soul. Next, we talked about soul groups, which range from 3 to 25 members, with the average having about 15. There are times when souls from nearby cluster groups may want to connect with each other, and often this activity involves older souls who have made many friends from other groups with whom they have been associated over hundreds of past lives. How a subject views their soul group cluster is based on the soul's state of advancement, although memories of a schoolroom atmosphere are always very clear. In the spirit world, educational placement depends on the level of soul development. While in a superconscious state during deep hypnosis, clients say that in the spirit world, no soul is looked down upon as having less value than any other soul. We are all in a process of transformation to something greater than our current state of enlightenment. Each of us is considered uniquely qualified to make some contribution to the whole, no matter how hard we are struggling with our lessons. If this were not true, we would not have been created in the first place. Souls consider themselves having finally arrived home when they've rejoined familiar classmates in group settings. Their attendance here with certain other souls does resemble an educational placement system in form and function. The criteria for group admission is based upon knowledge and a given developmental level. Soul group placement is determined by soul level. After physical death, a soul's journey back home ends with arrival into the space reserved for their own group, as long as they're not very young or isolated for other reasons. The souls represented in these cluster groups are intimate old friends who have about the same awareness level. Not long after souls return to their spirit groups, they're called before a gathering of wise beings. A step or two above our guides, these ascended masters are the most advanced identifiable entities who are still seeing incarnating clients in the spirit world. The spirit world is a place of order, and the Council of Elders exemplifies justice. They are not the ultimate source of divine authority, but they appear to represent the last station of beings responsible for souls still incarnating on earth. These wise beings have great compassion for human weakness, and they demonstrate infinite patience with our faults. Thank you, God. We will be given many second chances in future lives. They won't be lives of easy karmic choice, otherwise we would learn nothing by coming to Earth. However, the risks of life and sanity on this planet are not designed to cause us any further pain after death. The elders probe for answers of how we think our host body served or hindered development. Our intent in life is of utmost importance at the council meetings. Let's hear that again. Our intent in life is of utmost importance. During the deliberations, how our soul and mind interfaced with the human brain is carefully analyzed. Once souls have experienced this meeting with the council, they are free to pursue whatever activity interests them. This could include taking classes, creating beautiful things, or traveling. Each soul group generally seems to have similar interests, and so many groups progress through classes or activities together. Each soul's options are unlimited. Some take classes to become guides, some continue to visit their families on Earth, and some apparently enjoy riding their motorcycles. As each soul progresses, they may choose to incarnate on Earth again. If they're interested in doing so, they will choose to meet with the council again along with their guides and make some plans. And that's where we ended the first two discussions. Shall we go on? I hope you say yes, because I got a few pages here. Thank you for acquiescing. Dr. Newton is frequently asked, when you take people into the spirit world, do they see God? This is a question he has no short answer to. He says that his subjects do feel the source of their origins all around them in the spirit world. The more advanced explain that all souls will eventually coalesce back into conjunction with the source of purple light. However, is there some place in the spirit world where being is still evident to the still incarnating soul? The answer is yes, at the council meetings. During the time we're meeting with the Council of Elders, there is overwhelming feeling of an even higher force, which is simply called the presence. Many subjects state this is as close to God as we get. The more advanced clients, who are nearing the end of their regular incarnations, indicate they don't think the presence is God exactly. To them, it's a deified entity or entities with capabilities immensely superior to those on the council. Everyone agrees that the presence is there to assist the work of the council. Typically, people who come to these hypnosis sessions do not like to use the word God in describing a higher presence. Anybody here have that same? Yeah, I think an awful lot of us have that knee-jerk, don't say the word God. They prefer to use such words as source or oversoul because the word God has been too personalized on Earth. As many souls approach the more advanced stages of development, presence may become pluralized in their minds as part of the many divine forces in the spirit world with infinite knowledge. They feel its higher force does influence council meetings, but it might not be the ultimate creator. These subjects see the greatest evidence of the presence in council meetings. Even so, the presence is equated with a larger, omnipotent and omnipresent energy force in the spirit world. After reviewing hundreds of case notes describing the presence, Dr. Newton decided to offer a few of them in a series of quotations. In their sessions, each subject speaks of the presence in just a few sentences. He believes this list of quotes he selected will capture the flavor of what the average soul feels about this aspect of their council meetings. I do not actually see the presence, but feel it as the ultimate energy. It is therefore the council, but mostly for me. The elders don't serve as intermediaries between myself and the source of power. I feel a direct connection with the divine purple light. When I'm in the council chamber, the presence oversees the elders with its pulsating violet light. Sometimes it turns to a bright silver to calm and purify my mind. The presence is above and in back of the council. Only with difficulty can I look up at this power. I feel its sanctity so strongly that I don't think I should try to look at it directly during the council meeting. If I did, I could not stay focused on the elders. The council seems to acknowledge the presence without being too deferential to it in such a way as to slow down the proceedings. I think it's intended that my council and I pay attention to each other. Still, I have the impression that the magnitude of all this combined intelligent energy is designed just for me at this moment. My guide, the elders in the presence, are keepers of the wisdom beyond my experience. And the presence represents a purity of energy which assists the council on my behalf. I believe that the council needs the help of the presence because it's been so long since they themselves incarnated in biological form. The pure wisdom of this energy allows both the council and myself to see more clearly where we should all be going. And finally, the brilliance and drawing power of the presence is a calling and eagerness directed at everyone in the chamber for all of us to join it someday. It's like a parent waiting for us to grow up and unite with it in adult understanding. When you stand in the council chamber and feel the presence, it's like a penetrating resonance in your mind. Even the master guide encounters this sense of bliss. I know this is why she really enjoys coming to council meetings with me. It is a fountainhead of love and understanding. When my time with the council is over and I leave the presence, there is such a yearning to go back and be close to it once more. So within each soul's evaluation by their council, there runs the thread of divine forgiveness. People ask if souls feel remorse during and after the council meeting if they were involved of acts of cruel wrongdoing. Of course they do, but they're reminded that accountability for wrongdoing frequently comes with the selection of the next body for the payment of karmic debts. Souls are directly involved with the selection through their council because this is what they want for themselves. Although karma is associated with justice, its essence is not punitive, but one of bringing balance to the sum of all our deeds in all our lives. Almost all the younger soul groups remain in their own study areas. Particularly with the level 1 and 2s, their designated spaces are sacrosanct with self-imposed boundaries between classrooms. The underlying basis for these conventions is that all souls have respect for the privacy of the work going on in other study areas. Souls are free to avoid study engagements with their own classmates at any time if they so choose. So, hey, you can skip class if you want to. If a soul wants solitude or to be involved in some private work which they feel is beneficial to them, away from their companions, they are free to do so as long as this activity does not interfere with the work of another group. Souls are not forced to study, and some take long periods of rest. Even so, most souls feel left out if they are not with their classmates in some ongoing project. It's the excitement of mastering certain skills which drives them. Visits between soul group members are selective and designed for specific reasons. Since such visitations are by invitations emanating from teacher guides, they are the exception rather than the rule. There are groups who interact with others, where other groups don't appear to see souls from outside at all, except when they're away from their study areas. Those groups who are uncomfortable with ordinary visitors may welcome an advanced specialist or high-profile soul. Because many souls do become restless at times with their formal work, go figure. Instructor souls often arrange for gatherings at the community center with guest speakers. The visiting speakers at these functions give souls a break from the regular teachers, which allows for different perspectives with topics of general interest to the soul groups. These messages could center around how to appreciate others, the benefits of kind acts, loyalty and integrity, and how to be generous. Life on the other side does not involve all work and no play. The term R&R for rest and recreation is quite appropriate in the spirit world. After physical death, our spirit continues to carry all the fond memories of earthly life. The taste of certain foods and drinks, touching human bodies, the smells and sights and sounds of walking the deserts, climbing mountains, and swimming the seas of earth remain with the soul. So it's natural the souls will want to maintain these planetary memories by recreating their former bodies in the spirit world. After all, it was here in the spirit world where the conceptual design and eventually energy models for physical organisms began. There are souls who come to Earth as invisible beings between lives, so they can re-experience former physical environments. The only problem with this is they must return to chronological time, so they cannot relive experiences the way they want to. There are souls who find this kind of nostalgia trip to be unrewarding and even frustrating out of a physical body. This situation does not apply to those souls who come back to comfort and aid loved ones and are motivated by a desire for recreation. I might suggest that's the motivation for your loved ones to come here. Right? Dr. Newton has also been asked if animals have souls. Usually by the cat leaders, yes. His answer is that since he has never hypnotized a cat, he cannot personally attest to cats having souls. But some of his clients declare they do see animals in the spirit world between their lives. In fact, there are some souls on the other side who have chosen the job of caring for animal souls while in the astral space. One of them said that animals have their own connections with the community, bonding by general species we are not supposed to understand. Animal caretaker souls appear to be specialists in the spirit world. It's not a popular specialty among Dr. Newton's clients, but their work is much appreciated by pet lovers. These caretakers are not considered to be zookeepers. Dr. Newton once asked a subject who was knowledgeable of the skills the specialty required. Apparently, animal caretaker specialists associated with Earth are souls who are skilled at finding and reconstructing the essence of certain lower life forms. They are thought of as creator souls who seem to have the desire and ability to maintain these forms of life for us in the spirit world. There can be past life karmic aspects to our association with animals on Earth, and this could be another reason why we have animal caretaker souls. During their long apprenticeship of training, souls are able to study and practice many arts. One of these areas of instruction is a sphere of soul transformation. Many souls, both young and old, can learn much from entering this enclosure between lives. The young are introduced to certain arts here that might interest them, while the older souls can hone their existing skills. Further, when he describes the space to people, he uses the analogy of the holodeck on Star Trek. While there are similarities in the concept, in the space of transformation goes much further than being in a room of simulations, because it's real. The space of transformation is not limited to permitting souls to get inside the energy of animals. Here, the soul can become any animate or inanimate object familiar to them. In order to capture the essence of all living and even non-living things on Earth, souls are able to blend with multiple substances. This would include fire, gas, and liquids. They may also become totally amorphous in order to meld with a feeling or emotion to become one with that state. Is that not cool? I want to go. Dr. Newton lists the space of transformation under recreation because the average soul begins to use this space for the sheer enjoyment of energy shapeshifting. Many souls he's worked with prefer to engage with these exercises in actual physical settings on other worlds. All these activities have the potential to go far beyond recreation for most souls. Another popular form of recreation is what they call spiritual dancing. There are still people in the world living in remote settings who engage in spiritual dancing and singing that's important to their cultural life. When his subjects describe the way they express their inner being in the spirit world through dance movements, Dr. Newton thinks of the Lahu people. The Lahu are animists who believe that all natural phenomena have souls and manifest a personal spiritual force. Many societies had these beliefs in ancient times, long before the rise of major religions. His clients explain that when groups of souls engage in this form of recreation, there are elements of ritualism and the celebration of the sacred source. Souls find this form of expression to be a means of heightening intensity. These movements evoke soul memories of their origins on Earth, other worlds, and of the spirit worlds themselves. Dancing and singing in unison brings a feeling of oneness with all thought when his clients describe the effects of this form of soul recreation. It's as if they feel suspended in the memory of spiritual bliss. They talk about how the sounds and rhythm of harps, lyres, and chimes are an expression of their nature as a soul. This was said by one of Dr. Newton's clients. My group especially enjoys acrobatics. We do not perform gymnastics in human form as some of the others do. We retain our oval or elongated shapes of pure energy. We set up an energy field resembling a kind of trampoline to be used for tumbling in relays. It includes a dance form which is too hard to describe, but it's all done with a great deal of laughter and fun. This movement during recreation draws us closer together. That sounds like a blast. Other recreational activities, such as art, are positions which are pursued quietly and individually. The practice of music and sculpture may be pursued alone or collectively. Sculpting energy to design structural objects in the creation of small life forms is not really considered recreational. They represent an integral part of task-oriented classroom instruction. So you get to make critters and living beings. A wonderful thought. Of course, who did the platypus, right? Although these activities can be overlapped with leisure time, music is a special category all its own, as far as the most universal soul appeal. Melodic sounds are often heard throughout the spirit world by its subjects in spaces that are not recreational. Within the context of R&R, music is enjoyed by souls directly or interwoven into subtle frameworks for drama, dancing, and even games. Dr. Newton has come to believe that more than any other medium, music uplifts the soul with ranges of notes far beyond what we know on Earth. There seems to be no limit to the sounds used in the creation of music in the spirit world. Then there comes that time in a soul's existence when it's ready to move away from its primary soul group. The integrity of a soul's original cluster group remains intact in a timeless way, regardless of who's graduating. They never lose their bonds to old companions. Primary cluster groups began their existence together and remain closely associated through hundreds of incarnations. Dr. Newton considers souls at levels 1 and 2 as young souls or beginning souls. But with the attaining of level 3, there's a change in soul behavior. These souls have now begun to expand their vistas away from their primary groups. The advancing souls don't disregard all they've known before. It's just they're now so engrossed with their training, it's become an all-consuming goal. These souls are fascinated by what they can do and want to become even more proficient. By the time they approach a level 4 range of development, transition is complete. In the course of their transition, level 4s soon recognize they are not limited to one classroom. Their old friends are aware of what's going on, but it seems to be mutually understood that not too many questions should be asked about these absences. It could be said that when a soul is elevated into the intermediate levels of training, they are being initiated into a guild of sorts. Although there are elements of privacy encoded for those souls, it is by no means elitist. Aspiring new arrivals are always welcome to a group of specialists. A number of soul specializations has been listed in Dr. Newton's Destiny of Souls book. They've been described as, here are your choices: Dream Masters, Redeemers of Lost Souls, Keepers of Neutrality, Restoration Masters, Incubator Mothers, Archivist Souls, Animal Caretaker Souls, Musical Directors, Explorer Souls, and Gamekeepers, among others. There does not appear to be a certain path that would ultimately lead souls to a seat on a council. The elders seem to come from a background of many specializations. When Dr. Newton discusses the topic of specialty areas during his lectures, a lot of people say they thought all souls were being groomed to be teacher guides. He had the same idea in the early phases of his research, but he eventually learned while teaching is a leading specialty in the spirit world, that does not mean that most souls make great teachers. When our soul, with input from our council, decides that we're ready to incarnate again, we can enter the screening room of future lives. How's that for a title? The screening room of future lives. It is seen as a sphere containing highly concentrated force fields of glowing energy screens. Most subjects see the ring as a circular domed theater with a floor-to-ceiling panoramic screens which surround them completely while they're situated in a shadowed viewing area. The ring displays futuristic scenes of events and people the soul will encounter in the life to come. Some clients have commented that each screen reflects scenes of childhood, adolescence, adulthood, and old age of the bodies they're reviewing, while others say that all screens show them the same scene at the same time. The whole spiritual structure of the screening room is designed to give the viewer an ability to either observe or participate in the action, just as in the libraries. And I didn't talk much about the libraries, but the libraries, oh my God. There are screens in the libraries where you've heard of the Akashic Records, right? You can look up anything from past lives, anything everywhere all at once. But they have the screens that, again, you can step into and feel and experience, not just kind of read about. Okay, so Dr. Newton stresses that all his subjects feel what they are seeing has been edited for their benefit and that they have less control over what they can watch than in the library where they see more. So think of that. When you made your choice to come into this and you were in the live screening room, they didn't show you everything. They showed you the good stuff because they know it's good for you to make this choice. So, Then later, the screening rooms are helpful to those souls with reservations about accepting a covenant for the next life. For many, observing certain aspects of their future gives them confidence. Nevertheless, some apprehensive souls have said they refuse to enter the screens to directly sample bodies for fear they might lose their nerve in accepting a difficult life contract. So I hope all of you have found this as fascinating a topic as I have. And I really thank you for indulging me and letting me share what I've learned. Now it's time for meditation. Would you? Great. Yeah, I don't need music. So as we join together to learn and grow and heal, we prepare ourselves by getting comfortable in our seats. Take 2 or 3 deep, relaxing breaths. And just breathe in the peace of the room. And breathe out whatever worries and stresses you've brought. Breathe in the light energy around you. And breathe out whatever tension you may be experiencing. Just continue to breathe and relax more and more. Feel the seat support you. As you relax more and realize how safe and secure you really are. In this wonderful, loving space that we've created here and that you are a part of. Your wonderful energy is part of what keeps this space so safe. So continue to breathe and relax and feel the truth of how safe and protected you are. And while you are here in this safe place with nothing else to distract you, let's call your main guide from the other side, the one who'll be waiting for you at the gate when you cross, the one who is always with you. Ask them to step in closely to you. You may not know them, ever experience them, but today we're going to ask them to step in close. You can ask them any question you'd like. But maybe one to think about is, why did you choose this life? What did you come here to learn and to do? I'll give you a moment to have that discussion. And now, with hopefully a little bit of extra insight about why some things feel right for you and some do not, you can thank your guide, tell them you'll see them later, let them withdraw back to their home as you take a deep breath to remind yourself of your physical body. And another deep breath, and open your eyes whenever you feel ready to.